Captain Jake Morrison stared at the screen in front of him. The numbers didn't make sense. His ship, the New Horizon, was supposed to be doing a simple survey mission. Look at some rocks, check for minerals, and go home. That was the plan. But the sensors were showing something impossible. "Lisa, come take a look at this," Jake called to his science officer. Dr. Lisa Carter walked over from her station, her coffee mug still in her hand. "What is it, Captain?" she asked. "These readings. Tell me I'm not going crazy." Lisa looked at the display. Her eyes went wide. "Those are metal signatures, really big ones." "That's what I thought. But look where they're coming from. The readings were coming from inside the dead planet in front of them, not on the surface. Not in orbit. Inside the planet itself, buried deep in the rock." Alex Johnson, their communications officer, looked up from his station. "Captain, I'm not picking up any signals from that planet. It's been dead for millions of years according to our scans." Jake rubbed his chin. In 20 years of space exploration, he had never seen anything like this. The metal signatures were huge, bigger than any ship in the human fleet, and they were old. Really old. "Lisa, can you get a better scan? I want to know what we're looking at." Dr. Carter nodded and went back to her station. Her fingers moved quickly over the controls. "I'm getting clearer readings now. Captain, there are multiple objects down there. They're not natural. Someone built them." "How many objects?" "At least 12. Maybe more. They're arranged in some kind of pattern." Jake felt his heart beat faster. This could be the discovery of a lifetime. Alien technology. Ancient alien technology. "Alex, send a message back to Earth Command. Tell them we found something." "What should I tell them, Captain?" "Tell them we found structures. Artificial structures. Very old ones." As Alex sent the message, Jake made a decision that would change everything. "Lisa, prep the shuttle. We're going down there." "Sir, we don't know if it's safe." "That's why we're explorers, Lisa. To find out what's safe and what isn't." 2 hours later, Jake, Lisa, and Alex were in their shuttle heading toward the planet's surface. The shuttle's drill was ready to cut through the rock to reach whatever was buried below. Sensors show the objects are about 200 meters down, Lisa reported. The rock around them is softer than it should be, almost like something melted it a long time ago. They found a good spot to land and started drilling. The work was slow but steady. Jake watched the drill go deeper and deeper. At 150 meters, something changed. "Captain, the drill just hit something hard. Really hard." "What kind of hard?" "Harder than any metal we know. The drill can barely scratch it." Jake's pulse quickened. "Can we get through?" "Maybe, but it'll take time." They worked for 3 more hours. Finally, the drill broke through. Jake looked at the readings and couldn't believe what he saw. "There's a space down there. A big space. And it's full of air." "Air?" Alex asked. "How is that possible?" "I have no idea," Jake replied. "But we're going to find out." They lowered a camera through the hole. What they saw on the screen made them all go quiet. Ships. Massive ships. Sitting in a huge underground cavern like they were waiting for someone to find them. The ships were dark, but their shapes were clear. They were bigger than anything humans had ever built. "My God," Lisa whispered. "How long have they been down there?" Jake couldn't answer. He couldn't even speak. The ships looked familiar somehow. Not alien at all. They looked human. But that was impossible. Humans had only been in space for 300 years. These ships looked like they had been there for thousands of years. "Captain," Alex said quietly, "look at the hull of that big ship. Do you see those markings?" Jake looked closer. There were symbols on the side of the largest ship. They were worn and faded, but still visible, and they looked like human writing. Ancient human writing. "We need to get down there," Jake said. "Sir, we don't have suits that can handle that kind of dive." "Then we modify the shuttle. We're going down." It took another 4 hours to prepare the shuttle for the descent. When they finally made it to the cavern floor, Jake felt like he was in a dream. The ships towered above them like sleeping giants. They approached the largest ship. Up close, Jake could see that it was in perfect condition. No rust, no damage, like it had been built yesterday and then put to sleep. Lisa ran her scanner over the hull. "Captain, this metal, it's not in any of our databases. It's stronger than anything we've ever seen." Jake walked to what looked like an entrance. There was a panel next to it with symbols he almost recognized. Without thinking, he pressed his hand against it. The panel lit up. Jake jumped back, but the panel stayed lit. Then the entrance began to open. "Captain, you need to see this," Alex called, from his position near the ship's front. Jake ran over to where Alex was standing. Alex was pointing at something carved into the ship's hull. It was a symbol. A simple symbol that every human child learned in school. It was the symbol for Earth. "That's impossible," Lisa said when she saw it. "Humans couldn't have built this ship. We weren't even civilized when this thing was made." But Jake was starting to think the impossible might be true. These weren't alien ships. They were human ships, ancient human ships that had been waiting in the dark for thousands of years. And somehow they were still working. As they stood there trying to understand what they had found, none of them noticed the small signal that had started broadcasting from deep inside the largest ship. A signal that was racing across the galaxy at faster than light speed. A signal that would tell very dangerous people exactly where to find the most powerful weapons in the galaxy. The discovery of humanity's greatest secret had begun. Admiral Kate Sullivan was drinking her morning coffee when the emergency message came in. She had been running Earth Defense Command for 10 years, and she knew the difference between routine reports and something big. This was something big. "Admiral, you need to see this right away," said her aide, rushing into her office with a datapad. Kate read the message from Captain Morrison 3 times before she believed it. Ancient ships, human symbols, technology that shouldn't exist. She immediately called her best people. Dr. Ryan Brooks arrived first. He was Earth's top expert on ancient history and archaeology. Kate had worked with him before on other discoveries, but nothing like this. "Ryan, read this and tell me what you think." Dr. Brooks read the report carefully. His face grew more serious with each line. "Kate, if this is real, it changes everything we know about human history." "That's what I was afraid you'd say. What do you need?" "I need to get there now, and I need a full research team." While Dr. Brooks prepared his team, Kate made another call. Commander Nicole Davis was in charge of Earth's Black Operations Unit. If there was trouble coming, Nicole would handle it. "Nicole, I'm sending you coordinates. Take your best team and get there fast. We may not be alone in wanting those ships." Commander Davis didn't ask questions. She never did. "I'll leave in an hour." Nicole picked her team carefully. Tony Martinez was the best demolitions expert in the fleet. If they needed to blow something up or stop someone else from blowing something up, Tony was their man. Sam Williams was their pilot. He could fly anything and get them out of trouble fast. 3 days later, Nicole's team reached the planet where Captain Morrison had made his discovery. What they found was beyond anything they had imagined. Captain Morrison met them at the landing site. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. "Commander Davis, thank God you're here. These ships, and they're incredible. And they're responding to us." "What do you mean, responding?" "Come see for yourself." Morrison led them down into the cavern. Nicole had seen a lot of strange things in her career, but the sight of those massive ships took her breath away. They were beautiful and terrifying at the same time. "We've gotten inside 3 of them so far," Morrison explained. "The moment a human touches the control panels, they light up. It's like they've been waiting for us." Dr. Brooks arrived 2 days later with his research team. He immediately started studying the symbols and markings on the ships. What he found made him very worried. "Kate," he called Admiral Sullivan on a secure channel, "these ships aren't just old, they're impossibly old. I'm talking about technology. That's thousands of years more advanced than anything we have now." "How is that possible?" "I don't think humans evolved on Earth." Admiral Sullivan felt cold. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying these ships suggest that humans once had a great civilization. A civilization that was incredibly powerful. Then something happened. Something that made them abandon all this technology and start over as primitives." While Dr. Brooks studied the history. Commander Davis and her team explored the ships themselves. What they found was even more shocking. "Admiral," Nicole reported, "these ships aren't just functional, they're incredible. The weapon systems are beyond anything in our current fleet. And the engines, I don't even understand how they work." Tony Martinez was examining the ship's defensive systems. "Commander, these shields are still working after all these years. The power source is something I've never seen before." Sam Williams was in the pilot's seat of one of the smaller ships. "Commander, you need to try this. The ship responds to my thoughts, not just my hands on the controls, my actual thoughts." Nicole tried it herself. The moment she sat in the pilot's chair, she could feel the ship around her. It was like the ship was alive and wanted to help her. "This is impossible," she whispered. But it wasn't impossible. It was real. And it was working. Dr. Brooks made another disturbing discovery. "Admiral, I found records. Partial records. They talk about something called the Silence. Something that forced ancient humans to abandon their civilization." "What kind of something?" "I don't know. The records are damaged. But whatever it was, it scared them enough to give up all this power and hide. As the human teams worked to understand their discovery, they didn't know they were being watched. The signal that had been sent when Jake first touched the ship's panel had traveled across the galaxy. It had reached many different civilizations. One of those civilizations was the Zentari Empire. War Commander Thekevar received the signal analysis from his science officers. Ancient technology, powerful weapons, and it was being found by humans. "Humans," Thekevar said with disgust. "Young species, weak species. They don't deserve such power." The Zentari had been the galaxy's strongest military force for 2,000 years. They didn't like the idea of humans having weapons that might challenge their power. "Prepare the fleet," Thekevar ordered. "We will take these ships for the Empire." His fleet was massive, 50 warships, including his flagship, the Death's Hand. It would take them several days to reach the human discovery site, but Thekevar was confident. Humans were young and weak. They would surrender the ships without a fight. He was very wrong. Back at the discovery site, more humans were arriving every day. Scientists, engineers, and military personnel. Admiral Sullivan had decided that if these ships were really human ships, then humans would learn to use them. Commander Davis had managed to get 3 of the ancient ships powered up and ready. She had crews training on them, learning their systems. It was amazing how quickly humans adapted to the ancient technology. "It's like we were meant to use these ships," she reported to Admiral Sullivan. Dr. Brooks had a theory about that. "I think we were. I think these ships were built by our ancestors, real ancestors, and they left them for us to find when we were ready." "Ready for what?" "I don't know yet, but I have a feeling we're about to find out." The feeling was right. 3 days later, Sam Williams picked up incoming ships on his sensors. "Commander Davis, we have company, lots of company, and they're not human." The Zentari fleet had arrived. Lieutenant Commander Dan Rogers had never expected to command a starship. He was a communications officer on a research vessel just 3 days ago. Now he was sitting in the captain's chair of an ancient human warship that was older than most civilizations. The ship was called Starbreaker. Dan didn't name it. The name was already there, written in symbols that somehow made sense to him, even though he had never seen them before. "Commander Rogers," called Petty Officer Lisa Park from the weapons station. "The alien fleet is getting closer. 50 ships, all armed for war." Dan looked at the main screen. The Zentari warships were huge and dark, covered in spikes and armor. Plating. They looked like they were built for one purpose, destroying things. "How long until they reach us?" Dan asked. 20 minutes, sir." Dan took a deep breath. He had 2 other ancient human ships with him. Captain Amy Foster was commanding. The Voidwalker, and Major Eric Stone was in charge of the Night Strike. 3 ancient ships against 50 modern alien warships. It should have been impossible. But Dan was starting to think these ships didn't follow normal rules. "All ships, this is Rogers. Are you ready?" "Voidwalker is ready," came Amy's voice over the comm. These weapon systems are incredible. I've never seen anything like them. Night strike ready to fight, Major Stone reported. My gunners say the ship is teaching them how to aim. Dan knew what Stone meant. The ship's AI was unlike anything humans had ever built. It didn't just follow orders. It seemed to understand what the crew wanted to do and help them do it better. War Commander. Tekvar sat in his command chair aboard the Death's Hand and looked at the human ships on his screen. 3 small vessels against his entire fleet. He almost felt sorry for them. Open a channel to the humans, he ordered. Dan's communication officer nodded. Incoming transmission, sir. Put it on screen. The face that appeared was reptilian and cruel. Tekvar's yellow eyes showed no mercy. Humans, you have found technology that does not belong to you. Surrender the ships and we will let you live as slaves. Refuse and we will destroy you all. Dan looked around his bridge. His crew was scared but determined. These people had volunteered to crew an ancient ship they barely understood to face, an enemy that outnumbered them greatly. Zentari, Commander, Dan replied. These ships are human ships. They belong to us. If you want them, come and take them. Tekvar's laugh was like broken glass. So be it. All ships, attack formation. Destroy the humans. The Zentari fleet moved forward like a wall of death. Their weapons began charging, ready to tear the 3 human ships apart. Dan felt something strange happen. The ship around him seemed to wake up completely. Every system came online at once. The bridge lights changed from blue to gold, and Dan could feel the ship's power like electricity in his bones. All crews, weapons free. Let's show them what humans can do. The battle began. The first thing that shocked everyone was how fast the ancient human ships moved. The Starbreaker dodged the first wave of Zentari weapons fire like it could see the future. The shots that should have destroyed them passed harmlessly through empty space. How are we moving this fast? Asked Lisa Park. I don't know, Dan replied, but keep shooting. The Starbreaker's main guns fired. The energy beam that came out was pure white light, brighter than a star. It hit the lead Zentari warship and cut through it like it was made of paper. The alien ship exploded in a ball of fire. 1 down, Dan said. 49 to go. Captain Amy Foster in the Voidwalker was having her own amazing experience. Her ship seemed to know where the enemy would be before they got there. Her weapons hit targets that her gunners couldn't even see yet. Captain, her science officer, Dr. Maria Santos, called out. I think our ship is talking to the other human ships. They're sharing information faster than our communications can work. Amy realized Maria was right. She knew what Dan and Eric were thinking without them saying anything. The 3 ships were fighting as one unit, like parts of the same. Brain Major Stone's Night Strike was the smallest of the 3 ships, but it hit the hardest. His weapons seemed designed to find the weak spots in enemy ships. Every shot he fired destroyed or disabled a Zentari vessel. War Commander Tekvar watched in horror as his fleet was torn apart. In 10 minutes, he had lost 20 ships. The Yao, human vessels moved like ghosts and hit like gods. How is this possible? He screamed at his officers. They're just humans. His science officer looked terrified. Commander, those ships, their technology is far beyond ours, far beyond anything we've ever seen. Another Zentari ship exploded as the Starbreaker cut through its hull, then another, and another. Tekvar made a decision that would change the galaxy. All ships retreat. Send a message to the High Command. Tell them humanity is not what we thought they were. But before the surviving Zentari ships could escape, something else happened. The Voidwalker fired a weapon that none of the EIOA human crews had seen before. A blue energy wave spread out from the ship and washed over the retreating Zentari fleet. Every Zentari ship stopped moving. They weren't destroyed, but they couldn't move or fight. What did you do? Dan asked Amy over the comm. I don't know, Amy replied, sounding as surprised as everyone else. The ship just knew what to do. Dr. Santos was studying her readings. Captain, that weapon disabled their engines and weapons, but it didn't hurt the crews. It's like the ship wanted to stop them, not kill them. Dan realized something important. These ancient human ships were incredibly powerful, but they weren't cruel. They could have destroyed every Zentari ship, but instead they had just stopped the battle. "Zentari Commander," Dan said over the comm. "Your ships are disabled, but your crews are alive. Leave this system and don't come back. Tell your leaders that humanity has returned." Thekvar's face on the screen was full of fear and rage. "This is not over, human. When the galaxy learns what you have found, they will unite to destroy you." "Maybe," Dan replied, "but they'll have to get past us first." The Zentari fleet limped away on emergency power, leaving the 3 ancient human ships alone in space. Dan looked around his bridge at his crew. They had just won an impossible battle against overwhelming odds. But even as they celebrated, the message was already spreading across the galaxy. Humanity had ancient warships, humanity was dangerous, and humanity was no longer hiding. The galaxy would never be the same. Admiral Kate Sullivan stood in the command center watching hundreds of ships work around the ancient planet. News of the battle with the Zentari had spread fast. Now every human military unit in the galaxy was heading to help dig up more of the ancient ships. Dr. Chris Evans was leading the biggest archaeological dig in human history. His partner, Dr. Maria Santos, had joined him after the battle. Together they were uncovering secrets that changed everything humans thought they knew about themselves. "Admiral," Dr. Evans called over the comm, "you need to see what we found." Kate took a shuttle down to the planet's surface. The dig site was massive now. Hundreds of people were working with heavy equipment to uncover more ships. But Dr. Evans led her to a smaller site away from the main work. "We found this 3 days ago," he said, pointing to a huge metal structure sticking out of the ground. "It's not a ship. It's some kind of building." The structure was covered in the same symbols as the ships, but these symbols were different. They told a story. Dr. Santos was working with a team of linguists to translate the symbols. "Admiral, what we're finding here is incredible. These aren't just random markings. They're historical records." "What kind of records?" "The history of humanity. The real history." Kate felt her stomach drop. "Show me." Dr. Evans led her inside the structure. The walls were covered with images and text. Even though the writing was ancient, Kate found she could understand some of it. The symbols made sense to her, just like they had to the ship crews. "According to these records," Dr. Santos explained, "humans didn't start on Earth. We came from here, from this part of the galaxy. We had a huge empire called the Terran hegemony. The images on the walls showed human ships traveling between stars, huge cities floating in space, humans ruling over dozens of worlds." "How long ago?" Kate asked. 60,000 years, Dr. Evans replied. "Maybe more." Kate stared at the wall paintings. They showed humans as the most powerful race in the galaxy. Ships bigger than planets. Technology that could move stars. "What happened to them?" "To us?" Dr. Santos pointed to a section of wall that looked different from the rest. "The images here were darker, more frightening. Something came from outside the galaxy. The records call it the silence. Whatever it was, it scared our ancestors enough to abandon everything. The images showed something dark spreading between the stars, worlds going quiet, ships disappearing. They chose to hide," Dr. Evans continued. "They scattered across the galaxy and gave up their technology. They became primitive on purpose. Why? Because the silence hunted advanced civilizations. The more technology you had, the more it wanted to destroy you. So humans decided to forget, to become so primitive that the silence would ignore them." Kate looked at more images. They showed humans landing on many different worlds, including Earth. They showed them burying their ships and destroying their records, but they left these ships behind, Kate realized. Yes, as a backup plan. In case the silence ever came back. Colonel Steve Parker arrived that evening with a team of the best engineers in the human fleet. His job was to figure out how the ancient technology worked. With him were engineer Rachel Stone and tactical analyst Ben Clark. "Admiral," Colonel Parker reported after a week of study, "these ships are incredible, but they're also designed specifically for humans. Our genetics, our brain patterns. They won't work for anyone else. Rachel Stone had been studying the ship's computers. The ships have been waiting for us. They've been maintaining themselves for 60,000 years, just waiting for humans to come back. Ben Clark had news that worried everyone. Admiral, I've been analyzing the ship's databases. There are hundreds of these vessels buried across the galaxy, maybe thousands, all waiting to be activated. How many could we potentially recover? If the records are right, enough to build the biggest fleet the galaxy has ever seen. As the humans worked to understand their heritage, the rest of the galaxy was reacting to news of the battle. The Zentari High Command was panicking. War Commander Thekvar's report had shocked them. Humans have weapons that can destroy our best ships, the Zentari Emperor told his war council. This cannot be allowed. The Zentari began building the largest war fleet in their history. Every ship, every weapon, every soldier they had was being prepared for war against humanity. But the Zentari weren't the only ones concerned. The Council of Seven was meeting for the first time in 1,000 years. These were the oldest races in the galaxy, the ones who had ruled before humans ever left their primitive worlds. Elder Vextar of the Altarian Republic spoke first. We have all heard the reports. Humans have recovered ancient technology that predates our own civilizations. Elder Morden of the Crystal Worlds was worried. If humans truly had an ancient empire, why don't we remember it? Elder Krelax had studied the oldest records of his people. Because they erased themselves from history, completely. The question is why. Some members of the council wanted to unite with the Zentari against humanity. Others remembered older legends about something called the Silence. If humans hid themselves from the Silence, Elder Vextar said, then the Silence might still be out there, waiting. Back on the dig site, Dr. Evans made a discovery that changed everything. Deep in the command structure, he found a room that had been sealed for 60,000 years. Inside was a computer system that was still working. Admiral, he called Kate, urgently. You need to see this, it's a message. From the last humans who lived here. The message was a hologram of a human woman. She looked tired and sad, but determined. If you are seeing this, the hologram said, then you are our children and you have found your way home. We are sorry for what we had to do. We are sorry we had to forget. The hologram showed images of the Silence approaching. Dark ships that consumed entire star systems. We tried to fight. We had the most powerful fleet in the galaxy. But the Silence was too strong. It learned from every battle. It got stronger every time we fought it. The woman's image flickered. So we chose to disappear. To scatter and hide and forget, hoping that the Silence would lose interest and leave our galaxy. We left these ships for you because we knew someday the Silence would return. The hologram looked directly at Kate. It's coming back. Our sensors detected it at the edge of the galaxy before we shut everything down. The Silence is returning, and when it does, you will need these ships. You will need to be strong. The message ended. Kate stood in the silent room, understanding finally why. Humans had found these ships now. It wasn't an accident, it was time. The Silence was coming back, and humanity had to be ready. Fleet Admiral Jack Thompson stood on the bridge of the massive command ship Dawn's Light. 6 months had passed since the first discovery, and everything had changed. Humanity now had over 200 ancient ships operational, with more coming, online every day. Dr. Lisa Carter was at his side as Chief Science Advisor. Commander Nicole Davis led the Special Operations teams. Together, they commanded the most powerful fleet humanity had ever assembled. But they were about to face the biggest test in galactic history. Admiral, called Captain Morrison from his scout ship Pathfinder. Long-range sensors are detecting movement at the galaxy's edge. Something big is coming. Jack looked at the tactical display. The Zentari coalition fleet was already in position, near the outer rim. Over 3,000 ships from 12 different species, all united by their fear of humanity's ancient power. How long until they reach us? Jack asked. 2 days, sir. Jack nodded. 2 days to prepare for a battle that would decide the fate of every living being in the galaxy. The coalition fleet was massive. War Commander Thekvar commanded from his new flagship, the Galaxy's Wrath. Beside him flew ships from the Corvin Hegemony, the Stellar Confederacy, and 9 other major powers. They had put aside centuries of hatred to unite against the human threat. Today we end the human menace forever, Thekvar announced to his fleet. Their ancient toys will not save them from our combined might. But as the 2 fleets prepared to fight, something else was happening at the galaxy's edge. Captain Morrison's sensors had detected more than just the approaching coalition. "Admiral," Morrison reported, his voice tight with fear. "There's something else out there. Something beyond the coalition fleet." The readings were confusing at first. Dark objects moving between the stars. Ships, but not like any ships in the galactic databases. Dr. Carter studied the sensor data. "Admiral, these readings, they match the descriptions from the ancient records. The silence is here." Jack felt cold fear run down his spine. The real enemy had arrived. The first sign of the silence was the communications blackout. One by one, the outer colonies stopped transmitting. No explosions, no battle signals, just silence. Then the coalition scouts began disappearing. Ships that were there one moment were simply gone the next. War Commander Thekvar received the reports with growing alarm. "What do you mean, gone?" "Sir, the ships just vanished. No debris, no energy signatures, like they never existed." Thekvar was about to respond when his own sensors detected something that made his blood freeze. Dark shapes were moving through his fleet. Ships that seemed to absorb light instead of reflecting it. The silence had found them. The first battle was swift and terrifying. The coalition ships fired everything they had at the dark vessels. Their weapons passed right through them like they were shooting at shadows. Then the silence began to feed. Ships started disappearing from the coalition fleet, not destroyed, just gone, erased, as if they had never been built. "All ships, retreat," Thekvar screamed into his communicator. "Fall back to the human position." It was the first time in Zentari history that they had asked humans for help. Admiral Thompson watched the coalition fleet fleeing toward his position with the silence close behind them. This was the moment humanity had been preparing for during 60,000 years of hiding. "All ships, battle stations," Jack ordered. "This is what our ancestors left these ships for. Don't let them down." The ancient human ships moved forward to meet the silence. As they did, something incredible happened. All across the galaxy, buried defense platforms that had been sleeping for millennia suddenly came online. Automated weapon systems, older than any current civilization, began powering up. Ancient human technology, hidden on 1,000 worlds, awakened to defend the galaxy one more time. Commander Davis led a squadron of the fastest ancient ships in a strike against the dark vessels. "All units follow my lead. Let's see what these ships can really do." The battle was unlike anything anyone had ever seen. The ancient human ships fought the silence with weapons that bent space and time. Energy beams that could destroy dark matter. Shields that existed in multiple dimensions. But the silence was learning. With each attack, the dark ships adapted. They began to resist the human weapons. "Admiral," Dr. Carter called out, "the silence is getting stronger. It's learning from our attacks just like the ancient records said." Jack realized they needed more than just weapons. They needed unity. "Open a channel to all ships in the area," he ordered. "Coalition and human vessels." War Commander Thekvar's face appeared on screen, along with the commanders of the other coalition species. "This is Admiral Thompson," Jack said. "The silence doesn't care about our politics or our wars. It wants to consume all organic life in this galaxy. If we don't work together, we all die." Thekvar looked at the dark ships destroying his fleet. His pride as a Zentari warrior warred with his desire to survive. "What do you propose, human?" "Our ships work best with human crews, but your ships can still fight. Form up behind us. We'll lead the attack while you provide support." Captain Morrison, still in his scout ship, made a crucial discovery. "Admiral, I found something. The Silence has a command ship. It's hidden behind the main fleet, but it's coordinating all the attacks." Jack studied the tactical display. The command ship was enormous, easily 10 times the size of even the largest human vessel. If we can destroy that ship, the others might become confused, Dr. Carter suggested. Or they might get angry, Commander Davis added. Jack made the decision. That would save the galaxy. All human ships target the command vessel. Coalition forces cover our approach. The combined fleet moved forward, human ships with their impossible weapons leading the charge, while alien vessels provided supporting fire. For the first time in galactic history, every major species was working together. The battle for the command ship was fierce. The silence threw everything it had at the approaching fleet. Ships were lost on both sides, but the humans and their allies kept pushing forward. Finally, the Dawn's Light and her escort ships reached the dark command vessel. Jack looked at his crew. This is for every world, every species, every life in our galaxy. The ancient human ships fired their most powerful weapons together. The combined assault tore through the command ship's defenses and destroyed it completely. The effect was immediate. Across the battle zone, the other dark ships stopped moving. Without their command vessel, the silence became confused and disorganized. All ships, attack now, Jack ordered. The combined fleet fell on the confused dark ships and destroyed them, one by one. Within hours, the silence was defeated. As the last dark ship was destroyed, War Commander Thekvar contacted Admiral Thompson. "Human Admiral," he said, his voice respectful for the first time. "The Zentari Empire owes you a debt we can never repay." Similar messages came from all the Coalition commanders. The species that had come to destroy humanity were now thanking them for saving the galaxy. Jack looked around his bridge at his tired but victorious crew. "Dr. Carter, send a message to Earth Command. Tell them humanity has come home." Months later, Jack stood in the newly built Galactic Council chambers. Representatives from every major species sat together, planning for a future where they would all work together. The ancient human ships now patrolled the galaxy's borders, watching for new threats. Humanity had taken its place not as conquerors, but as protectors. The secret was finally unleashed. Humanity was not a young, weak species. They were the galaxy's ancient guardians, returned to fulfill their destiny, and the galaxy was safer because of it.